Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower, and today we are going to discuss how to talk to a widower. This Widower Wednesday is going to be deep in Widower Psychology 101. Seems like a big frustration, or the biggest source of questions I get is, how do I tell my widower this, or how do I get my widower to do this? So we are going to do a deep dive onto how to talk to a man who has recently, or has not recently, let's just say a man who has lost his wife. So it doesn't matter if your issue is maybe photos on the wall, or if he's hiding you from friends or family. Other issues, maybe he won't remove the urn, or there's an urn or ashes somewhere. Maybe he's visiting the gravesite, or he constantly talks about the late wife. Whatever the issue is that you are dealing with your widower, after this video, you should have some ammunition on being able to talk to him better and figuring out if he's serious about solving the problem and approaching him in ways that'll kind of make him more likely to take you seriously and maybe take your concerns seriously as well. So, first thing you need to know about men, it doesn't matter if they're widowed or not, but the first thing you need to know about men when you're in some kind of relationship with them and you start talking to them and you're asking them and you start saying, hey, we need to talk about something, their alerts go up, and the first thing they're thinking, no matter even before you've said anything, is they're thinking, how am I going to solve this problem? And that's just a natural instinctual thing. You say, hey, we need to talk about the photos on the wall, or we need to have a discussion about something. The first thing that goes into effect is, okay, she's asking me to solve a problem. Whether or not you're actually asking him to do that, that's kind of how men think, and they're thinking like, okay, what does she want me to do? What can I do? How can I fix this thing? So just understand that you need to kind of have a basic understanding of that, because men want to go out and fix things and solve problems. That's just kind of their natural inclination. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, if he wants to fix things, why won't he take the photos down? Why won't he remove the urn? Why won't he tell his friends and family about me? Okay, I get that, and that's a valid question, and so I'm going to say it has to do with your approach. So either your approach is wrong, or the widower simply isn't ready to move on. Those are your two options. So as we talk about how to talk to a widower, I'm going to tell you some approaches you can take that will make this a lot easier, and make it more likely that he'll actually respond to your suggestions. Again, if the widower is going to keep putting you off, no matter how many times you phrase things or you're doing things right, just keep in mind it might be a sign he's not ready to move on. But let's just assume he is ready to move on. The first thing you need to know when talking about to a widower, especially where it involves issues of his past, issues of the late wife. So, like, we're talking again, photographs, going to see the cemetery. Maybe you want to talk about why he did some things with the late wife this way, and why he's not doing them with you, or why he's trying to do the same things with you. The thing you got to remember is you can't act jealous of the late wife or his past. If he gets any hint of jealousy in your remarks, and there's nothing wrong with being jealous, by the way, that's a natural thing, but if you come across as jealous, if you come across as insecure and jealous, doesn't matter what you say after that, he will just tune you out. He will do the exact opposite, probably, of what you want him to do. So even if you're insanely jealous about something or whatever it is, that's fine. But when you talk to him, you've got to be in a state where you're not going to come across as jealous. So an example of that might be saying, hey, we need to talk about these photographs on the wall. I understand that they mean a lot to you, but here's my problem. And you're coming across in a way where you're not saying, you have these photos up, and I think you love the late wife more than me. That's not what you want. When you come across as jealous, or you're trying to maybe demean the relationship that he had, I guarantee he's turned you off already. He's just gonna whatever. He might sit there and nod. He might yell at you. Who knows? But he is not going to respond to what you want. If anything, he might end up hanging up more pictures, or kind of digging in his heels and saying, "Screw this! I don't have to do what you want." So that's the first tip: is you don't act jealous of his past. So if you can come across and you can frame things in the present, that this is about your relationship now, and it's not about the past or his past love or anything like that. You'll come it'll go miles and miles to him at least listening to you. All right, the second issue is, again, because again, men go on alert, right? They want to say, okay, you're asking me to solve a problem. How can I solve the problem? The next suggestion I'm going to give you is to discuss one issue at a time with him. Say like there's 3 issues. Say he's visiting the cemetery every day, there's photos on the wall, and he hasn't told his kids about you, okay? If you go in and you start talking about all 3 issues, you're overwhelming him, not going to solve the problem. So if there's multiple issues you want to talk about, pick the most pressing one and discuss that one. Focus on that. Don't get into the other issues, because suddenly instead of one problem to solve that he can think about, there's like 10 problems to solve, and I don't know, it's just not it doesn't work well for men to say there's 15 things wrong. It doesn't make them feel good, and they're just not going to say, well, which one do you want me to solve first? And it kind of gets into that I don't know, I guess what men call like nagging. And actually, men are more than happy most of the time to go ahead and help you and fix things and make your life better. But you give them like 10 things that they need to do, and I don't know, just male psychology, widower psychology there, it just doesn't work. So anyway, so focus on one thing at a time. If you have lots of things you want to talk about, pick the most pressing one, work on that, solve that, then go to the next issue. In most cases, especially when it comes to things of the late wife in the past, then this might seem counterintuitive, because again, widowers want to help. Widowers have this men have this instinctual need to go out and fix the problem. So my next piece of advice might seem kind of counterintuitive, but let me explain it. It's actually not counterintuitive. Just please be patient and listen to this. So in most cases, when it comes, and this is Widower Psychology 101, like for example, say he has photos on the wall that you want him to take down. So you've set it up. You're not acting jealous that these photos are up. You're just going to concentrate on the photos. You're not going to worry about the kids or him going to the cemetery every day. You're just going to focus straight on the photos. So you've passed the first 2 tests. Now you think the next thing would be to say, hey, I want you to take these, you look at the widower and say, by the way, these, I don't know, all these pictures make me think you're not ready to move on. I want you to take the pictures down. What you don't want to do is ask him to take the pictures down. Now, again, that's kind of counterintuitive. You might be thinking, wait, he wants to fix things. Why not tell him how to fix things? Well, this is why you don't want to do it. And this is Widower Psychology 101. Very important. If you understand this concept, especially if you're dating someone, goes miles to actually figuring out if he's ready to actually date you or not. So the way I would approach the situation is you would say, hey, you've got, I don't know, pictures in the bedroom or pictures wherever. Every time I come into the house, these pictures make me feel uncomfortable. And kind of stop and leave it at that. You might want to say, now take down these photos or take down most of the photos. Because the reason you don't want to do that, now think that the widower is thinking internally, well, how do I fix this problem, right? And of course, well, the issue is, well, I have to take down the photos or some of the photos or all the photos. The widower gets that, okay? He doesn't need you to tell him what needs to be done. He gets that. But what's going on inside of his head, and this is what's really important, is the widower is making a choice. Again, because it's hard to know sometimes if widowers are really ready for a serious relationship or if they're ready to move on. Now, to be fair and completely honest with the widowers, they may not even know that the photographs are bugging you. Honestly, the whole house may be decorated in the style of the late wife. She picked the couches, she picked the paint, whatever. Widowers do not care. It's just wallpaper to them. So he may not have even thought at all that these photographs on the wall are bothering you. And so now you've expressed the concern to him. You say, you know what, when I see these pictures up, it makes me uncomfortable when I'm in the house or whatever, And so now it's clicking with the widower. He's looking around the room saying, okay, yeah, I got pictures up everywhere. Hadn't really realized that these might be uncomfortable to you. But inside, he has to make a choice. And this is the best way to tell if a widower is ready to move on, is he knows how to fix the problem. I guarantee he knows how to fix the problem. But he's weighing 2 things in his mind. He's weighing his past and his love and relationship for the late wife versus starting a new relationship. All right, and that's an internal struggle that all widowers have to go through, especially if they're going into, when they get serious with someone. They've got to go through this struggle of putting away the past and embracing, a different chapter in their life, or a new future. And the two can't coexist. Widowers can't actively love more than one person at a time. They just can't. Any man can't actively love more than one person at a time. It's just, he has to make that choice. So he has to weigh within his mind, is it worth taking down the photos to start this new chapter, for example, or is it worth doing less frequent visits to the cemetery to make you happy, and to realize and to focus on our relationship, things like that. Is it worth moving the urn or scattering the ashes versus this new relationship? And now he may come back and say, well, what do you want me to do about it? And if he comes back and says, well, what do you want me to do about it? You can say, well, that's something you need to decide. You just kind of push it back on him, but he needs to weigh that. And if he does something because he wants to do it, if he takes down those photographs because he wants to do it, not because you asked him to do it, it will go miles as far as him putting aside the past, getting on with his life, and moving on. If he feels like he's doing it, now again, there's nothing wrong. You can go out there and say, well, I want you to, what do you want me to do? Well, I want you to take the photographs down. He may very well do it, but you've got to understand that he's doing it because you want him to do it, not because he is making that choice and he wants to do it. The widower needs to make that choice. He needs to make that break. This is something that was actually that my wife Julie did really good. So we were dating, and we were getting pretty serious, and we had just driven down to her parents' house, and she was training for a marathon at the time. I don't know, we had gone on like a 15 or 17 mile run that morning, and we were driving back, and I was exhausted, and I'm sitting there, I'm all sweaty in her car, she's driving, and I'm all sweaty, and we're just talking, and I'm thinking like, man, things are going good, things are awesome. And, and I can't remember how the topic came up, but she segued really good into it. And she was kind of like, well, I don't think you're quite ready to move on. She said something along those lines, or I don't think you're quite as serious to move on as you think you are. And I was just kind of like dumbfounded. I was like, what are you talking about? I just ran like 17 miles. I got up at like 4 a.m. when we drove down to your parents' house. I just ran 17 miles with you. Is that not a commitment or what? I mean, I'm showing you that I love you. This is all, going on in my head. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean I'm not ready to move on? And, I was really kind of miffed at it, and I was really kind of bugged. And I was like, well, tell me what I need to do. And she wouldn't tell me. And I was like, no, I'm ready to move on. I love you. We have a life together. I just did all this stuff for you. And we kind of got into a little fight over it. It was actually kind of like the first, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't we weren't yelling at each other, but, I was really kind of mad at her. And anyway, we got home, she dropped me off, and, she went off to her apartment, and I think we might have had plans for the afternoon, but I was kind of at the point where I was like, I don't want to make these plans. Like, who is she telling me I don't want to move on? Blah, 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 blah. And anyway, so I go inside, and I go into take a shower, and taking off my shirt, and I turn and look in the mirror, and I realize that there's a chain around my neck with a ring on it, and it's my wedding ring from my ring with a late wife. And I kind of looked at that ring for a second, and it just clicked. And I thought to myself, I wonder if that's what she's talking about. I wonder if the fact that I'm wearing this chain with this ring makes her think I'm not ready to move on. And so, when I went in and showered and kind of, went through the day, and I don't think we actually saw that. I think I was still kind of steamed, and if we had plans, we didn't do anything. Anyway, I was kind of steamed. But I thought about that, and I was weighing that decision in my mind. It was like, well, I wear this necklace because it symbolizes, my past relationship with my late wife. It's kind of in a spot where I'm not wearing a wedding ring and I have to go through the uncomfortable "Are you married?" conversation. And I don't know. I think I'd worn it there probably at that time 5 or 6 months. I had been wearing it. It was just kind of part of me and part of who I was, and something I just kind of always kept on me. And anyway, that night, I kind of thought about it some more, and I thought, well, maybe this is the reason she wants me to do it. Maybe it's not, but I should probably take it off. But again, I was making that decision. I had to kind of weigh, is it worth keeping this symbol of my past marriage around my neck versus, having a new relationship and, starting a new chapter with Julie. So that was kind of my thought process. And so I took off the ring. I took off the necklace and the ring. Didn't tell Julie that I had done it. And the next night, or the next afternoon, I don't know, we were getting ready to watch a movie or something. Things were, at least, Julie didn't bring up the subject again. Anyway, we were sitting on the couch or something, and I looked at her and I finally said, okay, I thought a lot about what you said yesterday about me not being ready to move on. And then I said, I want you to know I took the necklace and the ring off of my neck. And her hand immediately went to my chest. She started to, she wanted to feel if it was there. And I just kind of grabbed her hand before she could reach it. And I just said, look, I said, if this was the thing that was bothering you, I'm sorry. I want you to know that I love you, and I'm ready to do what it takes, so you feel like I'm ready to start a new life with you. And she kind of broke down to tears. She was kind of rubbing my chest, and it was gone, and and that ended up being the reason. If that hadn't been the reason, by the way, I would have said, look, you've got to be straight with me. What's going on, But I'm really trying here. But anyway, so but again, it was something I had to do. It was an internal thing. Same with like when I took the pictures of the a late wife down. I might have done it around the same time that the a necklace went off. But in my mind, it was something I did because I realized that Julie was kind of uncomfortable in the house, and she didn't have to verbalize it. I could kind of tell there was places in the house that she just wouldn't go, and I kind of figured, oh well, there's pictures of the late wife everywhere, and that's probably the reason. So I took down the pictures, and lo and behold, she suddenly goes in places of the house she hadn't gone before. So I figured that out. But anyway, again, the whole point of the story is that the widower needs to make that choice. And if he feels like he's making it for you, I guarantee it'll come back and bite you in the butt. If you tell him to take down the pictures, and he does, and he's doing it because you want to do it and not because he wants to do it, at some point, when stress time comes, he's going to get mad about taking down the pictures, and it won't work. So it's a great way to go ahead and screen out widowers who are ready and are not ready. So anyway, last thing I want to talk about when how to talk to a widower is to understand the problems that he can actually solve and the problems that you need to solve. It's very common for women dating widowers to play mind games with themselves. And if you sit down with a widower and you say, I'm feeling like this, and I feel like this, and I don't know, I feel like, I'm number two, without giving him a concrete reason, and I've seen it happen where they just kind of emotionally unload on the widower. And again, the widower is thinking, think how, going back to Widower Psychology 101, and he's thinking, well, how can I fix this problem? And you're giving him a problem that he can't fix. And that doesn't really do anywhere. Now, you can bring this up if you preface it by saying something like, hey, I know you can't do anything about this, but I just want you to know how I'm feeling. Julie and I had several conversations where she did kind of preface the conversation that way, because she struggled with dating a widower and wanted to know if this was something that she could even do. Especially when we were first dating, and we had conversations, where she would sit down and say, look, I want you to know that this is something I'm not expecting you to solve, but I want you to know where I'm at, and I'm having a hard time, with this relationship because of X, Y, Z. And so at least I understood as she was talking that this wasn't a problem she wanted me to fix, or I wasn't getting frustrated like I can't fix this problem. She was just kind of letting me know where she was at emotionally and the things that she was dealing with, and that actually made me want to listen to her. And again, realizing that I couldn't do anything to actually fix the problem. I couldn't make her love me. I couldn't make her want to date a widower. I couldn't make her want to marry a widower or anything like that. But at least it made me aware of the struggle that she was going through. So maybe I could be a little more sensitive to her needs, or if she wanted some space, I could give her some space that way. So know which problems you can solve, that they're your problems to solve and not the widower's. And if you feel that you should tell the widower about it, you probably shouldn't tell him all the problems, maybe, but if there are problems that you at least feel like he needs to know this, preface it by telling him that, hey, look, I know you can't fix this problem for me, but this is just where I'm at, and this is what I'm feeling. It'll go a long way to making the relationship work. Anyway, this has been a Widower Wednesday video on how to talk to a widower. I hope you have found it helpful. If you have more questions about how to talk to a widower, you can leave them in the comments below. Also, if you want to get the latest Widower Wednesday videos, do not forget to subscribe at the button up there. Become a subscriber. Also, I got another video down here that you can watch. Anyway, hope this helps. I'm Abel Keogh. This has been the latest Widower Wednesday. I'll see you next Wednesday.